I hadn't seen the new Wall Street film yet. It's been out, I don't know, a year or two. And I watched a big part of it yesterday and then the rest of it today while I was on the treadmill jogging. And excellent film produced by Oliver Stone. And I did notice a little cameo in there with the one, the only Sean Stone. But I do want to bring up that film a little bit. You know, I've had him on the show before and never raised stuff about his dad, but I just wanted to get his take on that film and ask what his favorite film of all time is. But he's here to talk about very, very serious issues. He's Sean Stone, and he is a documentary filmmaker, TV producer, TV host of, well, prolific work. And he is one of the big reporters on the third season of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura and Tyrell Ventura coming out very, very soon. I talked to Tyrell last week, and they're not quite sure on the date yet, but we should have that for you soon. But I wanted to get him on. You know, for whatever reason, I didn't get him on when he first made his big announcement a few weeks ago, and he's been on O'Reilly, CNN, basically everything. But now in the aftermath, we'll get him on. He went and converted to, I guess, Shiite Islam in Iran. And when I was out in Las Vegas, we were looking at some rocket bases and other things out there for an investigation we were doing. He showed me his sword of, Ali around his neck, and he said, I'm thinking about converting. And we really didn't talk much about it, but he said, no, I'm serious. But the way he's described it is, and that's what the Bible says, it all comes out of Abraham, Judaism, and then, of course, Christianity, and then Islam, and most major sects of Islam understand that and know that. So I think for his statement, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but what I've gotten from what he said is that he's basically just pointing out that it's, at least in its roots, all goes back to the same God, and let's stop killing each other. Like Rodney King, can't we all just get along? Maybe I'm wrong. Am I putting words in Sean Stone's mouth? We can find out right now because he joins us. Sean, great to have you on.
Hey, Alex, thank you. Good to be back and to talk to you again.
Well, I just, said a whole bunch of stuff. What's your take on what I said, and why did you go to Iran and convert to Shia Islam?
Well, I didn't go to Iran just to convert, and nor have I would never say that I converted. I've always said that I accepted Islam, and as you said, I believe. Oh,
accepted it, sure.
Exactly, Islam, because all that it means to accept Islam is to accept that Muhammad is a prophet of God, the same lineage going back to Abraham, Moses, and Christ. So, the Islam itself is, very similar to Judaism. The Sharia law is based on Mosaic law. Their respect for Christ is tremendous. They believe that there will be a last judgment, and Christ will return to earth as part of the second coming. And they believe, that they are part of this process. So it's not that in truth, the spirit of Islam is not contradictory at all, and they are very respectful of the people of the book. I think that ultimately, in spirit, all of us, all the people of the book are opposed to paganism, to the idea of God creation or cults, atheism, and Satanism. I think those are actually the real enemies of the religions. And anyone who says otherwise, for example, within the religions, there are Satanists. Within the Catholic Church, there are Satanists. Within Islam, there are Satanists who worship the ego, who incite people to violence against other worshippers of God, who don't understand the ultimate message, which is that we need to devote ourselves to one God as opposed to these cults that are created largely by the financial sector. If you think about it, going back to Babylon, when the priestcraft would basically deploy god cults around the empire. So you get Apollo, the cult of Apollo, the cult of Mithras, the cult of Isis, right? And as you saw with the Bohemian Grove, that's what they do. They deploy these different cults, and you do blood sacrifice or money sacrifice, debt sacrifice, ultimately, to that god. So the Federal Reserve, for example, is a temple. That's why the Federal Reserve... No, they
admit that they build these government buildings as temples. I want to get into this with you because I know that we were in Las Vegas and walked around and investigated that. But you're absolutely right. The occult means hidden, and it's the science of manipulating people and hidden knowledge, whereas, the great three big faiths are all about everything being in the open. And so it's all about being hidden or being out in the open. And you're right, the Satanists and the Luciferians, they're all deceivers. They're all about operating in secret and using deception. Very well said. In fact, please elaborate. Let's get into your research on the Illuminati that you were trying to get into.
Well, just simply to put that this is old. This goes back to ancient Babylon when you're basically the whole concept of the pound of flesh that's owed in debt, right? In the Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare points this out, that you either owe me the money, or if you don't pay the money, you owe me a pound of flesh. And that's essentially what these temples that are designed to do. That's why the temples would always put the image of God on the coin, the currency. So the idea is that you're basically creating a fake God. You can't, and that's why Islam talks about the fact that you can't, the reason you can't put Muhammad's face or God's face on coin is because they don't want you to worship an image of God. There should, it goes back to Moses,
idols,
right? Smashing the idols. So what we've created, though, in the West is a very satanic culture of idol worship, because it's about your energy and your money going to these people. You create, an idol out of Madonna and Britney Spears and Michael Jackson, whoever it may be, these cults of worship. And that's the old Dionysian cult, right? Where you go and you basically have orgies around these rock concerts or in these clubs, guided by the music of the cult master. And as I've studied and there's a lot of Illuminati influence involved in actually the creation of this music. Magical words, for example, witchcraft words of witchcraft. You can glimpse it in, for example, Led Zeppelin's work, where Page and those guys were, basically devotees of Aleister Crowley, and Aleister Crowley is the premier black magician of the 20th century, and the Illuminati still actually conjure Crowley because he's a demon apparently on some other dimension. So they try to invoke him in their rituals. But the point is that it's about energy. Where does your energy go? And so for the pure spirit of Islam, just like the pure spirit of Christianity, the pure spirit of Judaism, the idea is your energy is supposed to go to the one God, the Creator, and you are made in His likeness, and we are all made in the likeness of God. So we should respect each other as being made in the image of God, thus representatives of God. But if we then ultimately, if we then go towards worshiping people, idols, and serving them through our monetary system, and paying homage through our money, our energy is going to that. We become materialistic, hedonistic, and ego worshipers.
And they are truly false gods.
That's why we're not. Where's the resistance? Where's the resistance against?
Okay, his Skype just cut out. Let's reconnect with him right now. Thank you. Skype is an incredible thing, better audio, video for another dimension of information here, but it still is not perfect. That's why we couldn't use it 3 or 4 years ago. It was way too sketchy then. Now it's getting really, really good. But I was going to get into false gods with him. And see, people think false gods, that's the stuff in the Bible. It's mind control. They learned how to manipulate people through images, and then people can attach a message to their false god, Madonna, Angelina Jolie, Arnold Schwarzenegger, whatever it is, and then people will basically go along with that because of the image of the idol. But really it's just a narcissistic star who is just reading off a script or a teleprompter. That's why I point out my radio show, my TV show, teleprompter free. Teleprompter free. I mean, sometimes I have a TV screen where I can see the video of who I'm interviewing, or when they bring up a new article, I can know that, okay, we're covering that article. But you know what my words are versus when I say, let's read from this article. Because what you're hearing is what I've researched, what I stand for, what I believe in. You're absolutely right. And Sean, people say, well, this is old mumbo jumbo. We're the 21st century. Atheists say, I don't want to hear about God. I don't believe in it. The point is the elites do. And they're using it as a science of control. Maybe it is just an archetypal, you could say to the atheist, I don't agree with this, system of primitive programming of the brain. The point is it works. It works. It's real. It's 1,000 heroes, 1,000 devils, 1,000 good guys, 1,000 bad guys. It's the hero of 1,000 faces. It is Jungian psychology, whatever you want to call it. The elites are obsessed with it. More of the elite than I do. They're really into the occult. I mean, I know you can't get all the way into it, but have you ever run into the Illuminati, Sean?
I'm very close to some people who have and who are involved in some level. And this is a long exploration. Frankly, it's going to take some time to elaborate. But there are, basically the eyes wide shut sex parties are real. These things take place. They do have these crystal skull type of things that they, like in the Indiana Jones film, they had the crystal skull. They have these type of skulls they set up at the parties, and they feed the energy into those skulls. There's a tremendous amount of stuff I'm actually working on in Iran, studying what's called the jinn, because that's in Islam they call them the jinn, and in the West we call them genies, right? The point is that in Quran, they say the jinn were created by God in the beginning, when he created angels, humans, and jinn. And in the old days, they say the jinn and the humans and angels were more interactive before the last fall, before the last flood, from Noah's flood. And after that, the jinn apparently entered a different dimension. And from here, there are positive jinn and negative jinn. There are positive jinn who actually worship God, and there are negative jinn who worship
Well, that's
Satan.
like the Nephilim in the Old Testament in Genesis and Ezekiel.
Similar, exactly, the fallen angels concept. The point is, the jinn are very interesting for Freemasons because the jinn were involved in constructing Solomon's temple. King Solomon was able to command them. He had a ring of power, which is a 5-sided pentagram, which is why the pentagram symbol is key for most satanic or black magic ceremonies. You can then conjure jinn, but Solomon used them for wisdom and to command them, and basically use them to build the temple and to honor God, as opposed to what many of the Illuminati
And now you're
do.
giving out the big Mason secrets that higher level Masons are taught. Whether it's real or not, this is what 33rd degree Masons, 32 degree Masons are taught.
Yeah, and it's known outside of the Masonic circles, but the point is that the idea of the Illuminati, and this is known in the West, in the East as well, in Iran, in China, people I've talked to from the mystical sects, from the Sufis and other mystical sects, know about these things. That you can make that. First of all, there's 6 dimensions of perception, which is why the Star of David, which is actually not David's star, it precedes it. It goes back to Babylon. It's very important because it shows 6 sides.
Yeah, it's the key seal.
Six.
In fact, it's the seal on the ring and to command the creatures. Whether it's real or not, well, stay there. We're going to come back and talk with you on the other side. It was Solomon's key, right? And we're going to come back and discuss all this and your recognition of Islam. All right, Sean Stone, director, TV host, been over 100 films, is our guest. And in the next few months, they should be launching, they don't have the air dates yet, the new show Conspiracy Theory, the 3rd season with Jesse Ventura. Now, this is a short segment, long segment coming up. You were getting into Solomon's Temple when the break interrupted you. Please continue.
Yeah, so what I meant to say was that with the Star of David, the 6-sided as opposed to Solomon's, which is 5. Well, they're different. This 5-sided star is used for commanding jinn. And so when you go to the East, in Iran, for example, I've been talking to jinn masters, and they describe how what happens is you basically conjure a jinn and you make deals with them. And that's the essence of the black magic Illuminati rituals that we've uncovered or that we're aware of. And so they basically make these deals with these, what you call demon, fallen angel types. And they have to make sacrifice. So the point is that in order to, let's say, have the power that they enjoy to, let's say, have control over music industry, finance, if they want to control the Middle East, they have to then make a deal and some kind of sacrifice in exchange, a blood sacrifice. That's where the sacrifice of children comes in, the sacrifice of soldiers in war. And what's interesting about the jinn is that they always respond to symbols, signs and symbols. So that, for example, the pyramid, the triangle shape of the pyramid is 1, the 5-sided star, the 6-sided star. Each one has different meaning for them, but they then congregate around those signs, which is why you find that most of the major corporate symbols have some so-called Illuminati symbol incorporated into it, right? And that then gives an energy by which the jinn, whenever you wear that symbol, let's say on your clothes, you're giving energy to that power over you.
And again, if you're a new listener and you're like, this sounds crazy, whether it's real or not, the elite really do believe in this. I mean, that's come out so many times. When I was in Bohemian Grove, they were taking it all deadly serious. Why do you think most of the globalists are so obsessed with the pyramid? Because, they use lots of other symbols, but they love that pyramid. They
do. They love the pyramid. In fact, you've seen this Coney 2012 campaign that's being run?
It's an upside-down pyramid,
It's an upside-down pyramid. And it's like the inversion of the Obama campaign. We are hope, we are change. And they put they put Coney as his picture just like they put Obama's picture 4 years ago.
I noticed that they even used that same Soviet-style colors, but then put him by Hitler. Exactly. It's like Obama and the UN are good, and Coney is bad. And what's your view on that and Angelina Jolie? Because I found she's at the heart of all these wars.
Well, I won't comment on her specifically. What I'll say is the United Nations is a giant occult location and base. I've heard from multiple people about rituals taking place underground, including a guy in Iran who just went to school at Columbia, and he saw a spiritist seance taking place in one of the rooms he was invited to 30 years ago, in like 79.
No, they admittedly have weird religious rooms that they keep locked up that dignitaries go into.
Yeah, in fact, isn't there the black Kaaba, the Kaaba stone? See, in Islam, the Kaaba stone is very sacred in Mecca, and they because the black stone of the Kaaba, they say, fell to earth from heaven, and frankly resembles a little bit the 2001 obelisk that Kubrick intimated was involved in the creation of consciousness on Earth.
Yes.
Because when that black stone falls to Earth, that launches the step from animal to man, right? Because consciousness is now basically consciousness is this which we cannot describe. What is it that makes consciousness? Why is it the human consciousness is a different level than that of an animal?
You were getting into the six senses.
The sixth sense, right, beyond the five. The spirit being the fifth, but what is the sixth, right? So the point is that when it comes to that black stone at the Kaaba, this is a sacred stone, but they have a similar imitation of it, I believe, in the United Nations. So there's so much.
Well, the Queen of England believes she's sworn in on a holy stone that they drug back. That's the stone that they almost sacrificed. Abraham almost sacrificed his son on. That's admitted that, and that they really think they're Merovingians. That's actually mainline.
Yeah, in fact, doesn't she sit on top of a stone like that?
Yeah, she's sworn in. She's coronated on it.
Right, under her throne. But I was also told by the Jinn masters that she commands the Jinn through the stones in her crown, because the crown actually is like an antenna, and the stones that are put into her crown, those are basically Jinn basically congregate, like I said, around certain signs, symbols, stones, because it has to do with energetics.
That goes back to the lore of the dragon wants a big pile of gold and silver, because the more diamonds and gold they have, the bigger the resonance.
Yeah, well, the whole gold issue, you should get into Ben Fulford and David Wilcox and what they've been investigating regarding this fraudulent transactions of gold. The fact that the Chinese are owed tremendous billions of dollars of gold, if not more. They're trying to reclaim it, and every time they do, the U.S. IRS and whatnot basically alleges that those are fraudulent notes that they're holding, so they won't actually return the gold or pay the debt that's owed. So there's actually huge lawsuits that are taking place. Have you heard about this from Fulford and Company?
All right, we're going to be right back. We'll get more into that. And again, folks, whether you believe in this or not, the elite are obsessed with it. So they're running the world according to these occult systems. Look, just as an anthropologist, just as a sociologist, just as somebody who looks at civilization and current and past cultures, humans are obsessed with the occult, and every elite that ends up getting in power in every culture builds pyramids and chops their children's hearts out and drinks their blood. The Druids, the Aztecs, the Romans did rituals, but it's the Greeks did human sacrifice. But it's like a footnote. Every culture has done it until you see the worship of the one God. And even if you're an atheist or whatever, I mean, do atheists send me emails when I talk about pygmies being animist and worshiping plants and animals and say, I don't believe in God, don't tell me about pygmies' beliefs? The point is the pygmies are worshiping plants and animals if you look at it from an anthropology or sociology or archaeology angle. And the globalists, the people that have got 400 plus reactors, 90% of them leaking, that are genetically engineering everything, thinking they're God, they are out of their minds power trips. They believe they're establishing world government. They're setting it up. They're in control, and they're crazy, but they are in control. What do you make, Sean, of the fact, or maybe you disagree, that the globalists are endangering the planet while lecturing us that they want to kill everybody to save it? I mean, what do you make of where they're taking us, and who do the elite from your research into the Illuminati, where do they think this is all going?
I think we've hit this 2012 pretty hard, and it's a fascinating time. From the point of view of consciousness, there's a new awareness, I think, on the scale of global consciousness from people. The fact that we can communicate across the world through cell phones and internet from everywhere from Africa to America. They're trying to guide this to destroy nation states. And actually, that's why when I came back, I took the stand, on Iran, saying leave them alone. They have the right to nuclear power, including weaponry if need be. But the point is that they are a sovereign nation. The agenda that we've known for over 100 years of the high-level Masons and especially the British elite, the British monarchy, has been to continue the empire through informal means, right? They couldn't continue the empire through manpower. They don't have enough British troops on the ground across the world. So what they wanted was ideology, finance, control through IMF and
roundtable groups.
Roundtable groups, and then, of course, the idea ultimately that no nation is sovereign. They hate nation states because the idea of a nation state, the Treaty of Westphalia system, going back to the late 17th century, mid 17th century,
sure,
which allowed for our country to exist, based on that same principle, is that a country is sovereign within its borders. It has the right to develop itself, according to its constitution, according to its people's will. And they say, no, it's not according to your people's will. It's going to be according to our will. We're going to blow your country up. We're going to blow.
And notice it's a corporate model, just like the British East India Company ran India for hundreds of years. It was a private corporation. That's all globalism is they're exempt from the rules. We're all under this yoke of tyranny. And now under Obama, they're launching all these peace wars. How do you think things are going for the global controllers?
Well, they're in desperate trouble. I mean, that's why I'm saying read Ben Fulford's work on this gold issue, because there's some serious. It's called the Keegan lawsuit. These guys are from Chinese side, or the so-called Dragon family, are suing the globalists to get their gold back. Because the point is that there's so much gold that's been hoarded by the Federal Reserve Bank, the Rothschild family, these Western Illuminati families basically have been stealing gold. And now through legal means, the Chinese and others are actually trying to, what we call the White Dragon, or the sort of the White Hat faction, are trying to get accountability for this gold.
Did you notice that Chavez has demanded his gold?
Good, because what happens is these countries seize them. And the point is that when we invade Iraq, when we and the British invade Libya and Iraq and these countries, we're stealing the gold. That's what's being looted in the process, And you're also doing a controlled disintegration project where you're arming the various sides. So of course, the financier elite is always profiting from financing both sides and creating so-called controlled disintegration. If you can't control the system, they then have a policy which is controlled disintegration of that system, and you try to control the rate of decline, and by smashing it, it's like when the Rockefeller Empire was smashed, and as opposed to one consolidated power, they then had control of like 20 different companies, right?
Now it's a hydra which can even hide better and create monopolies that are even more powerful. Yeah. I mean, they say the Rothschilds are obsessed with hiding the fact that they've got trillions in different loot. And I agree with you. Things are not going well for the globalists, but that's what's so dangerous, is that they're going to
blow it up. They want World War III. I mean, the point about Iran is Russia is the last nation that's actually protecting sovereign nation states at this point. When Putin said that, you're facing a cult of violence, he's saying that because he knows how insane Obama is and his controllers, his British masters. And actually, the Jinn people told me that Obama answers directly to the Queen. And there's indications, they said, from the way that he behaved when he went to meet her, that she is basically his psychic sorcerer, let's call it, or controller. Because historically, the Illuminati have a ruler, and then they have some kind of Merlin figure, a sorcerer, who's involved in protecting them psychically and conjuring Jinn and conjuring the demonic powers by which they can rule. So apparently the relationship of Obama to the Queen is exactly that.
All right.
He is her puppet.
All right, I want to be clear here. We can prove that in this reality that the British royalty, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they want world government eugenics. I have their own documents. That's crazy enough. People can't believe it. I've never seen these things you're talking about. I know the elites believe in them and are very serious about it. But Sean, I've met you a few times in person, talked to you on the phone, had you on the show. You come across as a nice person who believes what they're saying, and you come across as an intelligent person. And, of course, you have a very famous father. And then you're here on air, saying you've recognized Islam and that you're communicating with entities called genies. I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't say, come on, is this some type of elaborate psyop? Or is this real things that have happened to you? And then why are you saying these things on air? Even if they're true, are you worried about being attacked?
No, I'm not saying that I personally communicate with genies. I mean, I've received phone calls and communications from people, could be sorcerers, frankly. I mean, I'm not entirely clear of what level of operation they're involved with. But I mean, whether or not the CIA, ONI, defense, the DIA. I mean, there's many different agencies that can be involved in this and that are monitoring me. This I know. Even the fact is that I was told about the strike in New York. Remember when New York and Virginia were hit in August 23rd of last year? I was called on June 29th and told 55 days till blackout. And this was one of those people that I don't know exactly who he is. I've never seen him face to face. I've only received phone calls, and I'm not sure which intelligence agency he works with. I'm not sure who what faction he's for, but he told me 55 days till blackout. 55 days later, Virginia got the earthquake. New York followed. The same week that a storm hit, a tsunami hit New York. I mean, this is insane.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there because, when I've talked to you personally and, when we've hung out and, worked on the TV show, I don't bring up the questions that everybody I know constantly brings up. But, here's your father, one of the most famous directors in history. And I've got to ask you, what does he think about all the things you're doing, or is that private?
There's, you speak with a lot of people around the film business. There's an awareness of the spiritist realm. There's a very strong spiritual realm, spiritual awareness. He's someone that has gone through that. I mean, you can see it in The Doors. You can see his relationship to Buddhism that follows with Heaven and Earth and other films. He's aware of demons. He's very aware of these things. Ultimately, does he believe in this, what I'm talking about? I don't know. I would say that's a long conversation, and frankly, there's things that he will say and won't say. The same with Steven Spielberg or any of these people. If you think about it, why are they making movies? Why is Spielberg making movies about aliens so much? And why does Hollywood propagate certain stories? Alien invasions, blackouts.
Sure, there's a lot we don't know, and that's what the occult's all about. Well, let me put it to you this way. You told me some stuff that fits in with information I've gotten from separate people that are at your level of connections and things I've personally witnessed growing up in Dallas and then also Bohemian Grove, so experiences I've had. And at the time you didn't say, this is off record, don't say anything, but later I said, hey, I'm going to bring this up. And you said, no, no, no. I mean, when are you going to talk about the things that you know about the Illuminati?
I think that'll come out in the course of the next year if we can do a documentary on this stuff and actually document it. I mean, I've seen photographs. I've seen photographs of some of the rituals beyond what you did. I mean, actual, estates, private estates where the cloaks are on. It looks like, eyes wide shut.
Sean, you haven't just seen photographs, right? I mean, you've got some other sources here.
I have other sources. I've never been invited. I'm hoping to.
All right. But, oh, man, I tell you what. All right, whatever.
That, we're trying to investigate this stuff and actually document as clearly as possible on camera what's going on. This is, but it's very serious to these people, and they, are not, they have killed in the past to quiet it and make sure that people don't know the truth. But I think that this is 2012, 2013. This is the time for awareness.
Well, look at what happened to Kubrick. They did cut 24 minutes of that film. He refused to cut it and died the day he refused because he had final cut. Then they cut it and released it.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing. My friend Alex, who was on the show with you last time, he saw lights in the sky over, where was it? It was off the coast of Jersey. And
there's a bunch of crazy stuff just happening in Phoenix, but go ahead.
This was actually when Occupy Wall Street had been shut. Remember the week that Occupy Wall Street in New York, they shut down Zuccotti Park, and then that week, then they returned to the bridge. Well, the night they shut it down, there was serious activity in the sky on the coast of Jersey, right across from New York, upstate. It's like the Pacific Highway there. And the point is that there was a whole town that got shut down. Actually, the cops blocked everyone, all traffic entering this area, Nyack, New Jersey. So they block, or is it New York? Nyack, New York. But the point is that they blocked this whole town. And Alex was checking it out because he's like, why is there so much going down? Oh, they said that there was a power outage or something. But no one was allowed to go to their homes. No one could even enter. Well, he saw a couple things in the sky. And next thing he knows, he's taken in by men in black. Basically, they arrest him in the woods where he sees this. He's thrown into Greystone Mental Hospital for a night. He then, is drugged. He calls me from the hospital. He's like trying to get out, and he's drugged out of his mind. I just tell him, okay, just sleep it off. Wake up in the morning. He gets out. He can't get any records. They deny that he was ever there. This is how these guys operate. You understand? And they try to then build a case. That's why a lot of people who ultimately are around the Illuminati, people like Arizona Wild and others, they end up in mental hospitals because they get forced into it. And the point is, once you're there...
Well, then they use the mental hospital as the cover. That came out with Ewing Cameron. Thousands of school children they would kidnap. This is on History Channel in Virginia and up over the border in Canada. And they would actually create mind control slaves. This is declassified. And they would run it out of mental hospitals.
Right, exactly. In fact, my friend was telling me last night how the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt is run by two of the head guys there are psychiatrists trained from Tavistock in England, right? So what they'll do is they'll have you go to prisons and around these countries in Egypt or Israel, wherever it may be, and they'll basically start to psychiatrically analyze the profile of the prisoners there and decide who's useful to be a candidate for extremism, for terrorism, for murder, and that's how they recruit people. No.
I knew this 8 years ago, but now it's been admitted. You're absolutely right. They have the real camp X-ray at Guantanamo within the base. Army and CIA psychiatrists run it. And that's why all the new al-Qaeda leadership are picked up as 14, 15, 16 there, taken, tortured, trained, and then released, and then they command the new al-Qaeda.
Right.
That's why the leader of al-Qaeda in Syria and the one in Libya were actually at that base for 5 or 6 years apiece. You're absolutely right. But it's even admitted that they are in there torturing them and mind controlling them in there. So Guantanamo is actually a terrorist factory.
Exactly. That's the whole point. It's old British Tavistock style of operating. You basically you profile people, you build terrorists, you deploy them around the world. I mean, it's like this. You got to wake up. I mean, people have got to wake up to this fact. These terrorists are known entities. You can go to any city and talk to a police officer. They know who the mob guys are. They know who are the most the drug dealers are. They know the most likely candidates for murder and crime. I mean, this is just basic police work. So you're going to tell me, Osama bin Laden sitting in Pakistan for 10 years and no one even notices? I mean, we live in delusion. We live in the Wizard of Oz reality. And I think people are waking up step by step. But the big problem, Alex, is how do you get information across when there's how many millions of websites available for information, for traffic, and then you get Fox News and obviously the major news networks who completely cover up any aspect of reality, and they spin you lies. But at least online there's available information, but there's just so much out there.
What do you think the system's going to do though to try to block out the awakening? They're openly wanting to censor now.
They openly want to censor the internet, and I was told that's what the Bilderberg group had decided last year. Who was it? The famous Daniel Estulin, I think, said that from the last Bilderberg conference that was discussed. The policy agenda would be to censor the internet as best they could. And then there was obviously this bill that was brought up earlier this year. I'm not sure what happened with it.
No, Jim Tucker said the same thing, and then boom, as soon as that conference was over, it began in earnest. Let me raise this point. So it's fair to say the media twisted what you said. All you did was recognize that Islam, from its founding, from your perspective, is worshiping the same God and we shouldn't have war with each other. They spun that like it was a bad thing and that you had now, basically gotten married to Ahmadinejad.
Well, I ultimately ended up becoming his defender when I was simply trying to point out that he's not a madman. You see, if you can turn the president of that country into a madman, some mad dictator, then then you can't have dialogue with the guy, right? You can't have dialogue with that country, even though he doesn't even run the country. But aside from that fact, that he's a president within a Republican structure and doesn't have as much power as our president, who's the biggest fascist in the world at this point. But I'll get into that in a second. So the point is that if Ahmadinejad is mad and he's a warmonger and he wants to destroy Israel, we can't talk to him, we can't negotiate with him, we have to attack, or we have to basically promote the idea of destroying him. So I'm basically saying, no, these people are rational, reasonable people. The same thing that actually came out a week later when the Joint Chief of Staff chairman comes out and says the same thing. Iran is a rational actor. This is, completely absurd. It's not prudent to bomb Iran. I mean, they've given us all the ammunition now to destroy Obama because Obama is the guy leading us into this goddamn war. The same way that he put the NDAA in place. He asked Carl Levin and the Congress to make sure that U.S. citizens cannot be targeted by our military. U.S. citizens can be picked up and detained. Are we out of our minds? What happened to our country? We've destroyed the Constitution blatantly, openly, and no one says a thing.
Well, I'm glad you raised that. We have the NDAA passing. They're passing laws for felonies if you protest. They're openly saying the UN and globalists run war-making powers, and the Congress is vestigial. I mean, this is off the charts.
Off the charts. He's assassinated American citizens. He's deploying drones across the country. But more importantly, he states openly, U.S. citizens can be detained indefinitely by the military. Okay, destroy due process, destroy habeas corpus. That's our constitutional basis right there. The U.S. military is going to be used against our citizens? They now have martial law in place. The only question is when they want to use it and to what extent. And we basically said, oh, because it's Obama and he seems like a smart guy. The guy is like Thulsa Doom from Conan. He's a cult leader with a good voice, and he knows how to hypnotize people. That's the way I look at him. And we better get him out of office so we can get another Democratic candidate, because otherwise this guy may not go away. It may be more than 4 years. I could imagine he would, if he's ready to shred the Constitution about military arrests, who knows, he could become a dictator.
No, I've got to say it. I mean, as bad as Bush was, Obama is even worse. I mean, he is just totally assassinating the republic right now. We'll break it down straight ahead with Sean Stone.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody
But you can't turn things around until you can actually recognize that you have a problem.
Everybody knows the fight was
We'll be back tonight with the Nightly News, 7 o'clock. Back tomorrow, Lord willing. We've only got 5 minutes left with Sean Stone. Always great to have him on. Sean, I never ask you this. What's the best web address or place to go for people to find some of the things you're up to?
Oh, man, I got to set up a website. That's all there is to it. I've been posting all these interviews and whatnot on Facebook. They're obviously on YouTube, but I have to consolidate it, and now's the time to do it. So once I get it up, I'll let you know.
All right, we've got 5 minutes left, so there's so many questions I've got, but what are points you'd like to make before we're out of time?
I mean, the point is that, we got to avoid this World War III, first of all. This is very serious. I mean, the Russians are not joking when they say that they don't want to see Iran attacked or the Syrian regime overthrown. And we don't know to what level they'll actually go in terms of putting boots on the ground. I mean, don't forget, Iran is on their border. It shares the Caspian Sea with them, right? And historically, the Russians have been known to intervene, whether it be Afghanistan or Georgia, when the West starts to mess around, screw around on its border. So if you think that, we're just gonna bomb Iran's enrichment facilities or whatnot and get away with it, first of all, Iran's going to retaliate, and we don't know in what capacity, whether it be Hezbollah attacking Israel or else something abroad. But the point is that they're rational in that sense that if they're attacked, they'll respond. And what will the Russians do? Will they start launching missiles at the Israelis? I mean, I get a feeling that our military is really making a very strong stand here against Obama, because Obama's committed us to backing into a World War III by Obama saying, we're unconditionally supporting Israel, by giving them bunker busters and other very advanced technology for waging an offensive war against Iran. So basically, Obama, on one hand, he says we want to talk to Iran. On the other hand, he's basically bolstering Israel and apparently cutting deals, like saying hold off the attack until after the election. But it may not be that long. The point is, these guys want it, as the Joint Chiefs have said, they want it before summer, by about June, because by June sandstorms start to pick up. It becomes much more risky an operation. So
and now 3 aircraft carriers are massing there. People have to understand, it's not America versus Russia. The global bankers are playing all these countries off against each other, and they want to sit back and watch us go into debt and use the war as a distraction from them absorbing the euro and announcing world government.
Exactly. And that's their next step. But the real thing is, these guys are lunatics. I mean, are they going to prompt a nuclear engagement between the sides? Because obviously that's what's being looked at right now. I mean, the Russian military and our military are looking at the old mutual assured destruction scenarios in terms of their technologies. Now, obviously, their technology is advanced 20 years or more. We don't know exactly where we are with these electromagnetic pulse weapons, things that could wipe out energy grids and our power. But obviously, I know that we have martial law established now in this country, so that we're basically prepared, it seems, for some kind of worldwide engagement. And
you just hit the key. They are building bunkers, storing food, getting martial law ready publicly, and setting up an architecture for World War III. I mean, they are, again, Europe and Latin America and the Middle East, they're not even the primary target. We in the West are the target of this war because, again, the globalists are outside of us. They're playing us off against each other.
Precisely. These guys have no allegiance to America. We got to stop thinking that this financial faction of Wall Street has anything to do with America. Wall Street is the biggest terrorist we face as American people. Our enemy is imperialism. We are a sovereign republic. We believe in the idea of a republic being sovereign over its territory, over its finance and economics. Wall Street has no allegiance to us. So why should we have allegiance to them? Why are we bailing out these guys who are international in their nature?
It's not just that they don't have allegiance, as you said. Wall Street is financing getting rid of our republic and our freedom.
Exactly. They're the biggest terrorists we face. Wall Street has terrorized more people than Iran ever could in America, across the world.
Sean, I want to get you back up next week or even sooner just on Iran, because this is so important. Just amazing information.